Welcome, Self-Made Nation, CEO, founder, business owners, to the Cash Rich Exit podcast. I'm Colleen O'Connell-Campbell, wealth advisor at RBC Dominion Securities, and your host. Today's episode is about what it takes to build a brand that sells and endures. I'm joined by Julie Cole, one of the co-founders of Mabel's Labels, a company born out of the frustration of lost lunchboxes and vanishing baby gear. From humble beginnings in a Hamilton basement, Mabel's Labels became a household name with a reported $12 million exit in 2016. And here's the twist. It's 10 years since that exit, and Julie Cole is still part of Mabel's Labels. In this conversation, we will unpack what buyers actually look for, how to build a business that remains magnetic after a post-sale, and why Julie chose to stay and keep shaping the brand she helped create. If you're building your own business with an eye to a cash-rich exit, don't go it alone. Reach out to me for your one-on-one wealth gap analysis. Reach out to me to be connected with other professionals that can support you along the way. Now let's rip off that label and get into it. Welcome, Julie Cole, to the Cash Rich Exit podcast as you take a sip from your tea on this cold day.
Gotta stay warm, Colleen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, this is a pretty fantastical story, Mabel's Labels. So, you know what? Let's take us back to how Mabel's Labels got started in the first place, back in the early days in the early 2000s.
For sure. Let's go to the Wayback Machine. So it has been almost 23 years, which is hard to believe. And yeah, Mabel's Labels started way back then. They were very different times for entrepreneurs. And we started for two reasons, really. I started it with my sister and actually two friends of ours from the University of Waterloo who went on to marry my brother and my young uncle. So it was also sort of a family biz. So the reason it started was, first of all, we were young moms. Our kids were losing things. And we're like, there's got to be a product out there that we can put on our kids' stuff because this stuff costs a fortune and everyone's got the same stuff. And we're losing it at daycares and at drop-offs and like everywhere we go. So there wasn't. People were using masking tape and permanent marker. We're like, there's got to be something, a solution to this. So we found the solution. So that was it. And, you know, people often ask me, how do you come up with a good idea? And I'm like, go through your day, find something that pisses you off and fix it. So that's what we did. Yeah. So that was the first reason. And then for me particularly, the second reason was that my past life, I'm a recovered lawyer. I have 6 children, right? So the oldest child was only 3 at the time, and he was diagnosed with autism. And I needed a little more flexibility to be able to set up programming for him, advocate for him, and do all the things that I wanted to be able to do to make, you know, things, set up great programs for him. So that's when I said to the gals, okay, we've had this good product idea. I need a little more flexibility. You guys are kind of like bummed out in your careers and trying to manage all the things. What do you say? And they were like, yeah, let's do this. So 22 years ago, we started making labels out of the basement, and we have since, like, you know, grown and grown. Our children have grown. The business has grown. It's been quite a ride.
So that's good news, I think. You're all still friendly and connected
Yeah.
because of that familiar
Yeah. Yes.
connections. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, for us, and I think anybody who's taking on a co-founder, there are obviously things that you have to really be aware of. Like for
Hmm.
us, it was awesome. Like those early days, especially then when there weren't people like you to listen to because there were no podcasts. So
Hmm.
entrepreneurship could be very lonely and you were kind of guessing as you went along. But for us, with 4 of us, we had not only some companionship, we could divide up the work, we could divide
Hmm.
up the risk and the expense. So I think having the 4 of us there really helped us grow quickly in those early days, you know, being able to provide support in so many ways. But also you have to be careful to make sure you're communicating properly and that you're not, you know, those sorts of things can end very badly. And I know a lot of,
Yeah, a lot of people just in a co-founding with two
yes.
people. So that all that being said, friends, family, that can also be a double-edged sword.
Yes, it's to be managed. And I think I was talking to on one of my LinkedIn lives, I had Jake Carls, who I'm not sure if you know him. He co-founded Midday Squares with his
Hmm.
sister and her husband. And I like what they're doing. They have a weekly, like, family therapy session, whether they need it or not. and it's a priority. Every week they meet because they say a relationship can't be lost in the chocolate squares, right? Like you need to be making sure you're managing that. And I think we did a good job. Of course, there were rough patches, but we got help. We ended up getting a coach. We ended up getting somebody who could come in and help us navigate tricky waters around growth, decision making. So, we did the right things so that we could be effective in our lives and in our business.
Right. So you could maintain the family and the friendships and create some division between in like different silos almost. Or like
That's right.
This is the hat that I'm wearing.
Yes.
This is not personal. This has to do with A, B, C, D, and E in the business. And then we're going home and we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas around the tree or Easter, whatever celebrations might have been the popular ones in your family.
Exactly. And we own a cottage together, or like a family cottage. So there are a lot of things, but you said a word that really resonates and was a problem for us. And you said the word silo. And I think this is what's eventually became an issue for us, because what happens is that, each person takes on their duty. So somebody's in charge of production, somebody's in charge of IT and finance. So we all had our different departments. And then I think instinctively you're protective of that department and you prioritize their needs and your team. So we were operating as like four CEOs, like co-CEOs, and eventually got to the point where we're like, hold on, we need like one person overlooking the entirety of the business so that we're not getting defensive about our people and protecting,
Right.
because, marketing might say, oh, well, we need a new product because we need something to talk about. I need a press release. And then production might be like, we're capped. We have no capacity for another product. So then they're both kind of arguing their points, and we're like, but what does the business need, right? That aside. So we needed really that clearer vision. And we were actually, when we did get acquired, we were at that point where we're like, okay, what are we going to do next? We've been at this for about 14 years. Maybe we hire an external CEO. Like maybe we needed to make a change. We got it so far. And we're like, if we want to get this even further, we need to, breathe some fresh breath into it.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, we had, a call from the company that ended up acquiring us.
Well, so, before we get to that call and what you
Sure.
did next, were there any particularly important decisions you made in the business you think that got you to receiving that call? Or was it a lot of
Yeah.
being in the right place at the right time?
Look, I think there's a whole bunch of factors. I think, like I said, having four people and four sets of brains and four capacities at work was definitely good. I think something that we did that was smart and did, I think, lead to that call is that we were very fiercely protective and intentional about creating our brand. And, a company didn't want to come in and take it over and make it theirs. They wanted to ride our coattails, right? Like everybody knew Mabel's Labels. All the moms loved Mabel's Labels. And the other thing we did smart was that knowing that our market wanted community. So, I've been going to Mom 2.0 conferences for 18 years. I was one of the OG mom bloggers, and it was about making connections with your community. And because that's how moms make their purchasing decisions. So I think, anyone who's starting a business, I'm like, know who your customer is, create community for them, keep turning up, be visible, support them, give before you take. And I think that's what we did quite kind of authentically, and we had a real grassroots approach. We were four moms in the Hammer making labels at a basement, and it was a great story.
And just a tangent to that would be IP around your label. So yes, you created the brand. What did you do to actually protect that brand from a legal perspective?
That's a really good question. So, and so many people, I met with somebody yesterday who wanted to pick my brain. I'm like, that's not patentable. A lot of things are not patentable. So what are you going to do to protect yourself? How are you going to separate yourself? Well, you're going to do things like, talk to an IP lawyer and get your trademark, do all of that. You can still copyright and have some common law protection, but you really want to register those trademarks. And, it's not okay. And of course, we've had tons of copycats, like every company does. I always tell people, just be ready for it. It's going to annoy you. It's going to annoy the heck out of you because they're just going to steal your ideas. But, fast followers is a legit business model. But for us, it was like we just made sure we protected our brand. We remained the most innovative. Our product has always been the best, remains the best. And we just keep our eye on the ball, which is Mabel's Labels.
All right. So, and it's still here, right? We said like that's pretty enduring. Partly with the help of being acquired by a larger entity that allowed, and actually, from my understanding, really wants to promote that as a separate business entity.
Yes.
So lead us up to that. It was 2016 when the announcement came out, but how did that come together?
Okay, so it was quite unusual. And for anybody who's listening, who's looking at an exit, you just need to know that this is not that normal. So what happened was we got the call, I think in July, from Avery Labels, a giant in this industry. And they said, hey, we've been watching you folks, and we like what you're doing. We like what you've created. Can we have a conversation? And at that time we were like, conversation can't hurt. We had been approached other times. We were like, absolutely not. But like I said, at that point, we were 14 years in. We knew we were at a kind of a crux where do we hire an outside CEO? What do we want to do? We want to do something, but we weren't sure what yet. So when we got the call, we're like, well, we'll take it. So we had the conversation. We kept having conversations. And then the deal closed on New Year's Eve of that very year. So a July to a finish at the end of December is like you're shaking your head, right? Like unheard of, right? So it happened. It was smooth. And I think for a couple of reasons, you have to go through due diligence. And I always advise people, make sure you have your housekeeping in order. They're going to look at every contract. That's when they get to take a little peek under the blankets to see what you've really been up to. And that's where you can lose money, right? So you might get a letter of intent saying, I want to buy your business for $4 million. And then they look under the covers in due diligence and they find some stuff. It's like, So then they're like, now that we found this, we're only offering you $3 million. So you want to make sure your house
1.5 million.
Yeah, depending on how bad things are. So I always say, just keep things in good order. Another thing that worked well for us was that I've seen a lot of companies go to exit, and exiting is a full-time job. Like exiting, like you are communicating with your, if you're working with a lawyer or somebody who's brokering the deal for you, you're talking to the buyer. This is full time. So what I've seen a lot of solo entrepreneurs do is they're so focused on that, and then they get left at the altar because, it's not done until that money's in your bank, right? So, and a lot of people go through this process like 5-10 times before the deal goes through. So, for us, with the four of us, we were able to put one of my partners in charge of kind of focusing on that.
So the other three could continue focusing on the business.
That's right. So we could work on keeping that business going, because what ends up happening is that if you take your eye off the ball and you get left at the altar, then you haven't had any sales for a year because you haven't been doing anything in your business. And then you've also got fatigue because you're so tired of that process. The thought of going through it again is just horrifying. So you're like, fine, I'll take the $1 million. So, and they do that purposely. They try and they will try to wear you down. I didn't feel that, but they, a lot of people have had that experience. So, for us, I think it was great having one person focusing on it. I think it was great that, due diligence, it's a lot of work to get organized for that. But if you keep your housekeeping in order from the start, it's going to be an easier process. And we got some coaching around how to tell our staff about it, because we couldn't tell them anything because it's a publicly traded company. And if we had told them that we were looking at doing this,
insider information,
you got it.
And along with a whole lot of other
100%.
But in particular, from a regulatory perspective, it was crucial not to.
Absolutely. And that for us, like having that sort of small business mentality was hard because we've always been very transparent with our staff. I mean, our team at the beginning was in the basement, in my sister's basement, sitting on the couch with us saying, what do we want to make next? So obviously it evolved way past that point, but we always did try to be transparent. So that felt a bit yuck, actually, because when we went through due diligence, we told the staff we were having a tax audit or something like that. So we were outright lying, which felt awful. But of course, once they got the news and they knew, they were very comfortable with the fact that we were staying in the same building, like nobody was losing jobs. It was still Mabel's Labels. We were staying on. A couple of us stayed on. And, because you have to think about it like from, your team member's perspective, which is going to be right away, how does this affect me? Right? So you have to have some answers for them. And then, we said if we don't have answers, we will find them. And when there's time of change and turbulence, that's the time that we turn to each other, not on each other. So that's what we kind of went with, and it went well.
Good. And so the deal closed, and it's now 10 years later.
Yeah.
You're still here. But there a slow sort of transition for the other co-founders?
So 2 left right away.
Okay.
They were like, one had thought about staying on, and then she's like, I don't know. She was very operational, and she's like, I probably, would be doing something different, and I'll do my own thing. So she left, and she's like doing some coaching and, doing her thing. And then my sister, she left right away. She had a little, delightful surprise baby. So she was still kind of in the thick of like babying, whereas the rest of ours, like they're probably like, my youngest may have been like 7 at the time, or 6 or 7. So so she was quite happy to step away, and then my other partner, she stayed on as a general manager for a couple of years, and then she's moved on as well, and currently she's like just traveling the world.
Oh, fun.
She's like on an 8-month trip, like around the world. Yeah, so there you go.
Fun. And then there's you. You stayed
and then
on.
There's me.
You stayed on,
one.
and it's 10 years later, and you're still here promoting the brand.
I love it.
Leading the charge. So what has motivated you to stay?
Well, just because you sell your business doesn't mean you fall out of love with it, right? So I think for me, part of the deal was that I had to stay on for a year, which is often the case, right? They want a smooth transition, and you have all this industry knowledge. And so I was like, yeah, no problem. And then after the year, I'm like, I'm still having fun. They're like, we still love you. So, and that's what we've been doing ever since. And it's been wonderful. I mean, I'm not the general manager. We are actually, our general manager is so awesome. She was somebody we had brought on like in 2009 to do a contract. She ended up, staying with the business, being our director of marketing and sales, and then just cruised right into that GM role. And she's got this really really servant leadership style that I really dig, and our team really responds well to. So it's been really sort of refreshing and exciting to see somebody who, once kind of reported to me, and now I report to her, and I'm good with it. I left my ego at the door a long time ago, and I just want the best for the company. And my role too is that, they really just want me to do the things to bring that personality, to be the company spokesperson, get out there, to be meeting moms, to be talking to folks like you, to be spreading the Mabel magic around. And so, as the senior director of public relations, I get to do that. It's the stuff I'm good at. It's the stuff I love. I don't have to, I'm still on the management team. So of course, yes, we're looking at new machinery, and we're looking at budgets, and we're doing goal setting and all that jazz, which I love too. But I'm not in the nitty gritty. Like, I don't know how to make a label, right? And I shouldn't know how. And I shouldn't know how to make a label.
Right.
If I was still in the basement 22 years later making the label, then this is a colossal fail, right?
Yeah. So what are the things you're up to other than being a guest on a podcast like the Cash Rich Exit podcast, telling the Mabel label story? What are you doing out there in the community?
Right. So a lot of things I do is I do a lot of speaking. I am like booked up solid for International Women's Day because I speak. Actually, I think I'm speaking at an RBC event. I speak at a lot of International Women's Day conferences, breakfasts, brunches, whatever. So I've got a lot of that going on. I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of media because I've also positioned myself as, in that parenting space as an expert. So, in a couple of weeks, I'll be going on breakfast television and I'll talk about parenting stuff, and I'm able to tie in, what I do. I might say go do a camp segment and talk about, 5 ways to prepare your kids for camp, and I can
And
tie
don't
in.
forget that you have to place the labels on
You
the
got it,
gear.
baby. You got it. Nobody wants to lose their gear. So, through my years of being, a mom of 6 and being in the parenting space. And like I said, I was the OG mom blogger, and I wrote a book during the pandemic called Like a Mother, Birthing Businesses, Babies, and a Life Beyond Labels. And it's full of like my mom hacks, my business hacks, all my things. And it, was a bestseller, and it's done really well. So often, like, I'll do a speaking engagement, they'll buy my book. And it's connecting with, I'm going out to California to speak at a SoCal Moms event. I'll be going to Prego Expo in Dallas, in LA, in New York. I'm always on the move, going to things. I'm going to go to the Ontario Camping Conference to catch up with because we work so closely with so many camps and daycares and schools, because we have a very extensive fundraising program. So it's basically like being there, getting out there, being visible, because visibility, especially in these times of AI, it builds credibility, it builds loyalty, and that leads to good customers.
Well, and that brings me to something I'm thinking about as you're chatting, right? But the way that technology has evolved since the beginning days of Mabel's Labels and now
Oh,
AI and so forth. I mean, how do you how do you stay
I
relevant? How are
know.
you staying on top of this so that
You have to. You have to. You have to, have to, have to. I mean, that's the thing. That's how you're going to stay innovative. That's how you're going to be, like, you have to know where your market is. Like, sure, back in the old days when we started Mabel's, suddenly then we have Facebook. All the moms were mommy bloggers and on the Facebook. So we connected there. Where are the moms now? Next generation is all on Instagram. So we're on Instagram. You have to go where they
so
are,
you're
and you have to be,
following
I
your
mean,
audience or trying to get,
that's
yeah.
exactly. But, you do have to experiment. You do have to toe dip. Like we're like, all the stuff is happening on Reddit now. Okay, let's do a campaign with Reddit, see how that goes. Okay, let's maybe work with some nano influencers and see if they have better engagement than the micro influencers. Like, it is like always evolving.
Mhm.
It's like, I say, if you have a PhD in Google, you need a new PhD tomorrow. So, I mean,
Well,
the
it's
way,
evolving that
yeah,
quickly. I
it
mean,
literally,
it's evolved so much since the early 2000s.
for sure.
And, and yet here it's almost daily that
Yes.
things seem to be shifting and changing, right?
That's right. So you
Yeah.
have to have a good team. I mean, we have a great marketing team. We have somebody like in charge of community. We have somebody in charge of our partnerships and affiliates. We have a digital team who's watching what's going on, who's looking at the analytics, finding out at what point are they dropping off our website? Is this now mobile friendly? Is this, are people doing click to buy here? Why not? Like, doing all the research. And that is something like somebody on our team is watching that every minute.
So while the Mabel's labels seem like a low tech solution
I
to a
know.
problem, it's an incredibly tech enabled
We're
business, really.
honestly, we're a high tech company. Like, that's, and like when we started, we were one of the first e-commerce companies, right? We
Hmm.
had, back in the day, people were like, oh, am I going to put my Visa in and buy these labels, right? Like, we've been
Hmm.
around a while. So we have seen so many changes, and we've adapted, and you can never just get comfortable, because that is where like no growth happens, and you'll get left behind.
So, no looking back, recovered lawyer, seasoned exit founder, and just having a blast now in your role. Okay, well, where can listeners find you, Julie,
Right.
and where can they find Mabel's Labels?
Yay. Okay. Well, kind of the same place. So, obviously, I want you to check out Mabel's Labels, because we do so many great products. We roll out all the time amazing things. So, go to mabelslabels.com. And if you want to find things specific to me, if you go to mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole, you can like order my book. You can see my media page. You can see all that sort of stuff. But otherwise, I am in all the places: LinkedIn, Instagram. Mabel's Labels is on Instagram. Julie Cole Inc. is on Instagram. We're out there. Can't miss us.
So, I always like to wrap up with asking my guests to share a piece of fun, frank advice for the self-made nation. What
Oh,
would you have to offer for, um, you know, you take it in whatever direction you want, whether it's as co-founder or in the exit process or when you're in the meat of scaling a business,
Yeah.
what
Okay,
got you to
I'm going
this?
to give some, yeah, I'm going to give some exit specific because of the nature of this. Um, I think a couple of things. One would be if you're planning to sell your business, if you're going into that process or thinking, I'm going to look in maybe 2 years to sell it, make sure that you're in a good EBITDA year. So for us, we weren't planning on selling, right? So we had done a big investment. We had spent $100,000 on our website. We had done some things that we were going to reap the benefits for in 2 years. So originally, when they came to us with a number, it wasn't the number that made sense. And so we went back and said, hey, hold on a second. I know this is like a lower number. It's because this has been an investment year because we weren't planning on selling. So
Hmm.
just make sure that, if you want to get top dollar, that you have a good bottom line and that your EBITDA is good. And also, I think from a personal perspective, if you're planning on a sale, make sure you have a very good finance person in your life because you want to do things like set up a holding company. You want to make sure you set up trust funds for the kids because you want to make sure you manage that influx when you do that cash rich exit,
Hmm.
that you have somewhere to put your money in a tax effective way.
Right. So you keep more for yourself while paying
Yeah,
your fair share of tax,
exactly. Exactly. But you,
not
you
too
can be
much.
smart about, hey,
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of paying tax. I'm a big fan. But you want to
But
make sure that you're
not more than you should.
no. And you know what? That's not what I do. I'm not a professional. So talk to a professional. They'll set you up and make sure you do the right thing.
This is great. Julie, it was so much fun to chat with you today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Colleen.
Well, that was fun. And that was Julie Cole, co-founder of Mabel's Labels, and her story. It's a testament to what it looks like when passion, perseverance, and parent-powered branding come together. From scribbled masking tape to a $12 million exit and beyond, Julie's story reminds us that a cash-rich exit doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes it's just the start of the next chapter. As you know, she's written a book, so if you want to pick up on her chapters in her book, have a look at the website, Mabel's Labels. If her story got you thinking about your own entrepreneurial journey, reach out to me for a one-on-one wealth gap analysis, and we'll explore how to turn your success into a legacy. Be sure to connect with me, Colleen O'Connell-Campbell, on LinkedIn. And if you found value in this episode, please leave a 5-star rating wherever you're watching it. Subscribe on YouTube. It helps more business owners like you find us. Thanks again for listening. I'm looking forward to welcoming you back again soon. I'm Colleen O'Connell-Campbell, Wealth Advisor at RBC Dominion Securities. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Quick little note, all opinions expressed by me and any guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of RBC Dominion Securities. This show is for information purposes only. Before acting on anything you hear or see, please consult a qualified professional. I'm a wealth advisor at RBC Dominion Securities, a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund.